Welcome to Adults Only Comedy Berlin. I'm back, guys, and got a little solo episode for you today. I'm recording from my new apartment, which is heaps bigger than my old one and closer into the city. Still in Berlin, and the reason why I haven't recorded for so long is because of what happened to my old apartment. So last year, it's a ridiculous story. Okay, so last year after the Fringe, I was planning to come back in August and recommence my recordings. I was pretty destroyed, honestly. After the Fringe, it was pretty demotivating, just in my schedule as well as profit. And it was my third Fringe where I didn't manage to get any media reviews, but I got some awesome audience reviews, and the development of my solo hi-ho was amazing. I really, I treasure the Edinburgh Fringe for the ability to really hone a piece of work, as well as to perform to real comedy lovers, like people who actually travel to the Fringe to view comedy. That's amazing. And last year, aside from the satisfaction of working my new hour, the biggest, I'd say the biggest joy was my returning audience from the previous years. So I had people coming back to see me for the third year in a row in Edinburgh, which feels pretty amazing. And also lots of new people that came to both my shows, which, again, just, super nice to be building this community in a different city and in a space that is primed, prepared for the, for comedy and for everyone who's truly in love with it and who will pay the exorbitant accommodation prices in order to get as much of it as they can. And also last year, another cool thing was I managed to see two comedians who are top notch and who I've been following for a while. Honestly, only one of them I've been following for a while, Jenna Friedman, and I got to see her work, which was very, very inspiring, hilarious, really real, and then I got to see another person, Alan Resnick, who that was my partner's choice, and that was just loony, completely unhinged, raw, self-aware, meta, as well as political. And I wish I was describing Jenna Friedman's work more closely, but I knew Jenna Friedman already, and I bought her book and I read her book called Not Funny. And it's really interesting to have read a book by a comic who is not as well known as other comedians' books that I've read, mainly Stuart Lee. But her what she had to say and her origin story and the politics of being a female comic. And we all hate that term, female comic, but it is still, like, as much as we don't want to be put into that category, it is still a very different space to be occupying and pushing through. So that perspective. Very cool stuff. Check out Alan Resnick as well. Wild stuff. A lot more alternative. And anyway, so I came back from the Edinburgh Fringe kind of not as economically bolstered as I have in previous years. And it had already been a rough summer in terms of money. And so I was just kind of, really trying to figure out what next, how to maneuver through the recession in Germany. And then in October, my partner was like, let's get away, let's get out of Berlin for a little holiday. Just a fun little weekend. A DJ from Argentina's playing. And so we went for the Friday night party, which ended up being weirdly disappointing, and then got insanely, unintentionally stupid high on the Saturday. One of those things of like, let's have an edible. And then my partner was super affected to the point where he had to be like, Anna, you have to stop talking. I'm going to laugh too much and I'm going to throw up. I was like, I can't. Before he clarified that it was because I was going to make him laugh too much, I was like, what, just the sound of my voice? Like it completely triggered all of my insecurities and about exes being like just not liking me or actually what I communicate. But it had nothing to do with that. It was that he was laughing too much, and that was making his stomach unsettled because he was that painfully high. So and then seeing him that high from the edible, which didn't affect me as much, I was like, I'm going to buy a joint, even though I had ruled out, I really was trying to stop smoking all of last year. I started smoking tobacco again after that first porn shoot that I told you guys about in the last solo episode I did. I had a little ciggy on the break because I was smoking weed at the time. And when you're on a set for like 10 plus hours, and you're kind of exhausted and you've gone through the caffeine options, the rehydration, the sitting down, the stretching, the eating sugar, you sort of get to a point where you're just kind of like restless and you want to have another feeling of difference in your body. And particularly because I was used to smoking weed at the time, being able to smoke something that wasn't going to alter my judgment or energy levels. And so I had a sneaky little cig, and then that just started this whole kind of like downward spiral of occasionally having tobacco. And then so for the last year I was struggling with that, but anyway, in Amsterdam in October, I had this joint to kind of catch up with my partner's level of highness. And then I went the other way. I got to this nice peak, and then I was like, I'll smoke a little bit more. And then I was stuck on a park bench, like I can't move. And needing to hold back the nausea and just being like, I'm such an idiot, and just brain fog and paranoia and self-doubt. It's like, why do we do this? Why do we smoke weed? Because we think it's going to be fun, and we have no idea how bad it could get until we're in the thick of it. But anyway, we come back from we have a nice chill weed-free day. I smoked the rest of the joint on the last day before we flew out. It was just after breakfast. I knew I was going to be fine. It was fun, but I'd never learned my lesson. But then we fly back home and we get back in the evening. So we'd had like a 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. checkout, then like wandered through the city, went to the movies, lunch, whatever, my little joint. Then we fly back to Berlin, get in the evening and have a nap, and then get up and then have some Burgermeister, and then we're sitting on the couch, and it gets to 3 a.m. and I'm like, yo, we should go to bed. You've got work on Monday, like tomorrow morning. And and we're, just mucking about on, working towards getting off the couch to go back to bed. And then there's this huge explosion. And we're like, what just happened? And, we're used to like fireworks and general fires in the area. I will say, my last apartment, well, let me tell you what happened. There was this explosion. We looked downstairs, and there's just this like red glow coming from the apartment below us to the left, like our next door neighbor, but downstairs. And I was like, something horrible is happening right now. Will more happen? Is this an attack? Is this terrorism? Is this our crazy neighbors who, are they cooking meth now? Has there been a drug lab explosion? I don't think they're capable enough to orchestrate a drug lab, And I'm just like, quick, let's get our passports, grab our jackets. We run into the stairwell. It's already full of smoke. Our scary, scary looking neighbors next door to us are also out of their door. We're like, was it them? I call the fire brigade. This is like 3:15 a.m. Turns out I was the first caller, according to all the newspapers. So this makes the newspapers because what then happened is this fire below us, took like all of that apartment, and then the fire was going up along the outside, and all of the apartments above that apartment looked like they were some were fire damaged, definitely smoke damaged. In the end, 44 people were taken to hospital with smoke inhalation problems. One person who was found in the blown up apartment was taken to hospital with burns on his face, and they said that they couldn't ID him, so we don't know what's up, but we weren't let back into our apartment until I think it was getting close to 9 a.m. So we're outside. It was pretty cold still. It was October. They got us like an emergency bus for us all to sit in while the fire brigade was figuring out what's what. And yeah, the fire brigade told us our apartment was now unlivable. So like made homeless in just a matter of hours through no fault of our own. And which was, you're just in shock. You're just in shock when that happens. And we hadn't taken anything of value. We hadn't secured anything. We had our passports. That was the main thing. But my partner didn't even have his phone. I had my camera. I had my MacBook, which I'm still paying off in the apartment. It's like, what if I have lost everything? And of course, we didn't have home contents insurance. We'd been talking about it. But we hadn't done it because we'd been like, we're going to move out soon because our neighbours, when I use the word crackheads, it's not some kind of pejorative, like it's that these people took hard drugs. There were often little bits of aluminium foil on the stairwell that had been used to smoke whatever it might have been, crack, heroin, I'm not sure. I've never done those drugs. I'm not better than them, but yeah, I haven't done those drugs. And so I don't know exactly what it was. Who knows? Meth of some sort. And I will say, like, there'd been enough warning signs. Our elevator shaft had been set on fire at least 2 separate times, leaving our elevator completely out of use for at least 2 years. Like it was set on fire. There was like a tire. We looked in and there was like this burnt out tire that they'd set on fire in the elevator. And then it took ages for them to repair it, let's say like 5 months. And then as soon as it was repaired, someone did it again. And then it was almost like the real estate like property owners in protest of the kind of behavior within the apartment complex, they kind of refused to repair it. And the apartment building goes up to level 5, and it is for low income earners primarily. Or at least it looks like it. And so there were people who couldn't use their elevator for, over a year, which I think should be illegal. And but I was on the first floor, so we didn't care that much. Also, aside from the sort of the junky foil, the foils left on the stairwell, the smells that would fill the apartment building, which were often like the smells of, nasty chemical drug use or, just a lot of like broken bottles and beer. Obviously there was the elevator fire, but also our dumpsters were often set on fire. I say this and I'm like, you think we would have maybe gotten out of this apartment building, but the rent was so cheap. It was quite a quiet area if you could block out the screaming of our neighbours, which you'd only hear if you were close to our front door. Like the walls were very thick. We could smell cigarette smoke wafting through the internal ventilation system from our neighbours, which was also kind of disturbing that the ventilation system was that bad that we could smell whatever they were smoking. But the other positive was that I had this balcony that just had this incredible view. I don't know if you've watched other video footage from this podcast, but a lot of the comments, or at least, even the audio ones, were like the view of my old apartment was amazing, right? It was just all parkland. There was a little stream. There was a little bridge, a little cute little wooden bridge. I would have squirrels and like hawks and just, really beautiful wildlife coming through. So it was really idyllic in a lot of ways. Walking outside of the apartment, it was just like you were immediately in nature. And did I mention how cheap it was? It was so for all my bills, so including internet, electricity, and there was no gas in the building, by the way, which is why the explosions that happened to render our apartment unlivable were deemed immediately criminal, and the Criminal Investigations Unit was involved, and that's confirmed by the news articles. This fire even made it to the UK news, so that's how epic it was. So yeah, we didn't have home contents insurance. We didn't move out, and in the end, crack house economics failed us, and we had to scurry like I don't know, like fucking rats, man. It was really stressful. So the fire brigade telling us that the apartment was unlivable was one thing, but then immediately after we spoke to a police officer, and he was like, "It's not unlivable." I don't know if he can put on kind of like a bogan German accent, but he was like, "These fire brigade people, they're so dramatic. It's not unlivable. Look, I'll take you up. Let's see." And so he lets us into our apartment, and they give us back our keys because they had to I don't know how they did it. I think they burst into some apartments. Other apartments they were able to, I don't know, I think they broke into all the apartments, and we were just lucky that our lock didn't get severely damaged in the process. But anyway, they let us in, and the police officer's walking around and we go in, and our floors are just black, and it's just smoke grease, but there's no fire damage. The fire hasn't gotten into the apartment. And we're looking around, and the police officer's like, "See, you could live in here. You could live in here." And we're like, yeah, we could live in here. And he's like, "All right, well, just don't tell the fire brigade that you're in here and that I let you in." And he's like, "Good luck." And he leaves. And yeah, my partner and I are like, "Oh my God, we're going to be okay." And so I was like, "All right, let's start cleaning. Baby, you take the bathroom. I'm going to take the kitchen. Let's try and get this done in like an hour. Then we can have a nap, and then we can reassess." So we get to it, and as we start cleaning, we realize really quickly, by the way, the bathroom was the floor was black, the entire bath was black, the basin was when I'm saying black, it was covered in this smoke grease, and our initial assumption was that it was just what we could see. But yeah, it became pretty clear that the smoke grease enters into every little crack. And according to the internet, it can penetrate through every surface. So online they were like, you have to throw away everything that you would eat, that you would put on your skin. And you open the cupboards that you think are safe, and you move something, and you realize that on every little, you move a cup and you just see this white ring where the cup was, and then you realize just how filthy every surface around it is. And in our drawers, everything was covered in this thick black grease, and it's not easy to clean off. And it was so deeply depressing, this idea of, oh, we survived the fire, oh, our apartment didn't get burnt, and then it's like, oh no, everything has still been contaminated. And within half an hour, 45, we both had these headaches, and we were like, we're not going to be able to clean this up. We looked at our bed, and our bed was just, and looking online, it's like anything that's made out of thick material that you can't get inside and wash is going to be carcinogenic forever. And basically it was oh, our entire apartment is a cancer hellhole. And so thankfully my partner's like, we can't stay in here, we're going to get sick, we can't clean all of this, we need to get out of here. He then booked us a hotel room. We were exhausted because we had basically from the 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. checkout in Amsterdam until then, we'd been awake for 24 hours under pretty extreme stress. And and so we ended up taking a nap on the couch, covering our couch in what seemed like some clean fabric, and just having an hour nap with the doors open in this fucking fumy hellhole until we could leave and check into the hotel that he'd booked for us. We then went there with some clothes, everything of ours was very, very little of ours wasn't affected by the smoke damage. And that's when we get into the hotel, we shower, and then it's just oh, fuck, what are we going to do? And there's just so many steps involved when you have a situation like that. You've got this apartment that is like what is the house, like what is the Hausverwaltung, what is the landlord going to do, where do we stay next? And so, reached out to a few people. So in the end, we were very grateful for the generosity of people in the comedy community, and we were able to crash at a few different comedians' houses. And then Steph Dupre was very sweet, and I'm not on Facebook but she put a post saying, "Hey, this happened to my friend. Does anyone have a sublet?" Immediately, someone offered that, and that was incredible. So we had a place then for 2 weeks after sort of bed hopping, couch hopping. For 3 nights, and then the hotel, we got a place, but then it's like, okay, what do we do now? And so we're looking for, my partner's looking at like long-term rentals and serviced apartments, and I'm on Immobilien Scout. Like, we can get a brand new apartment without furniture, but it's like we don't have anything except dirty clothes at this point. And anyway, what was funny was the sublet that we got was owned by, and we had to get approved to stay in this sublet by the owner of the apartment, and the owner of that apartment turned out to be someone that had asked me out many years ago, and I'd gone out with him for what I thought was just a drink. And at one point on the drink hang, I realized he thought it was a date. He leant in to kiss me, and I was like, oh no. And then he's like, oh, but I'm a very eligible person to date. Don't you want a secure future? Because I just bought an apartment. And so this guy is trying to sell himself to me on this hang when I've just rejected his kiss. And it turns out that I end up staying in that apartment like 6 years later when I need it. But he was when we spoke, he was all good. I did also find out that person has a bit of a reputation for not being a particularly nice dom. It's a small world. Anyway, so that was a weird thing to be stayed in this person's house, and while finding out this new information about how kind of unethically they perform in the sex scene, as well as knowing that this was kind of stayed in the house that was used as like a bargaining tool to try and be with me. Yeah, anyway, very, very, very weirdly coincidental. Whilst we're staying there, one of my partner's friends says, "Oh, my apartment just got empty and would love to have you." And it was like semi-furnished. So then we had a long-term temporary apartment, which was a huge relief. During this period, our my old apartment, the smoke damaged apartment, initially the landlords are like, "Oh yes, we will find you a new apartment. Don't worry." And that turned around very quickly to, "We will sanitize and repaint your apartment, then you can move back in." And we were like, "Nah, man, with that ventilation system where we're getting this smoke from our neighbors, there's no way the carcinogenic properties from the fire are going to be successfully removed within a couple of months. And that stuff is going to be passing through the ventilation system to us." Also, considering the level of arson that was in the complex, as well as the type of neighbors we had, there were some wonderful people in the complex, but our direct neighbors were scary, scary people. Very aggressive with very bad looking friends. And that's not any kind of profiling. I'm talking people who looked very drug affected, and the kind of people whose energy makes you want to get as far away from them as possible. And then just the way they spoke to each other, the level of yelling that was happening in that apartment. Anyway, we didn't want to move back in there. So in this new temporary long-term place, I was hustling on Immo Scout, checking it every day, every notification, every hour, looking for viewing appointments. And we ended up going to, I think we went to 3, or was it just 2? I think we went to 3 viewing appointments, and the third one we went to, the first one was a scam. By the way, Immo Scout is now just full of scams. I don't know what they're trying to get at, but it's crazy. We went to one viewing appointment that we were invited to. There were 25 people at the front of this apartment, and as we're all waiting, 9 a.m. on a Monday morning, Everyone's on their phones, and everyone at the same time gets a message from Immobilien Scout telling us that it is a scam, that it's a fraud. And this whole queue of people that have what's the word, not activated, but have been brought to action so early on a Monday. People who look like they don't usually get up before 11 a.m. like me. All of them have been roused to this opportunity, and we all get this message at the same time, and all feel like such a pack of losers that we were being. But what is the point of getting all these people to go somewhere for nothing? It blew my mind. I'm like, maybe I should advertise comedy shows like that. Get on Immo Scout. But no, but it was really mind blowing that these are the kinds of I still don't understand how anyone is profiting from lying to people like that, and mobilizing was the word, mobilizing people to go somewhere for what? Like, are they going to get someone's credit card details by doing that if they can't even see the apartment? It makes no sense. But anyway, so we went to that one, went to this other place that looked that was deeply depressing, but would have been great for like a scummy student veggie. And then we saw this place, and when we saw this place, we were just like, oh my god, this is amazing. It's double the square meterage. It's got a beautiful balcony. It's got a brand new kitchen and bathroom. New polished wooden floors, freshly painted, and we applied, and we're like, we're not going to get it, and we got it. We couldn't believe it. And so the fire happened on the 13th of October. We signed the lease to this apartment on the 17th of November. So in 1 month, we managed to secure a new home. And look, as much as we still haven't received any of the we applied for a rent reduction, obviously, as soon as the fire happened, to the burnt apartment. Still haven't received that back. Still haven't received my my security deposit. But very happy to have given back our apartment, not be dealing with that. But yeah, it was a crazy time. And whenever anyone's like, it's so hard to find an apartment in Berlin, you really just have to hustle, man. You just have to hustle. You have to be on Immo Scout, like getting notifications. You need to learn what's happening on the market. You need to be really but you can do it. You can do it because we did it in a month. So it also helps if you've got a solid income, thanks to my partner. And so that was that. What else can I tell you? My new neighborhood is it's the best. I am so close to the Ring and the S-Bahn. The Ring, the S-Bahn and the U-Bahn. So I was living in my old place. It was like a minimum 15-minute walk to any train station. So being very close to those things, it's blowing my mind. I am still in a bit of a dodgy area. I will say there are a good 4 men's clubs, cafes within like stone's throw from us. There's often police presence on our street, and there is a fensterman, this old crazy looking dude that is hanging out of his first level window, and there are men coming to him, handshaking throughout the day. So it is still a pretty dodgy area, I think. But that means I feel at home, and I prefer that. Okay. So I also have a German female neighbor who plays the didgeridoo, and that has led to a number of conversations at home where I'm like, as an Australian, having this white German woman next door playing the didgeridoo. So she did come and introduce herself as a musician to my partner. I wasn't at home, and she does play a bunch of stuff. But the didgeridoo, I don't know, the topic of cultural appropriation, I'm just like, my partner's got, he's a bit like, what is cultural appropriation? I'm like, what is this conversation coming from a Spanish, Italian, Austrian descendant from Argentina? But, and who am I? But, I suppose I have, I think maybe he says that in Argentina the connection to the native people is quite weak, and that's because the Spanish did such a good job at just obliterating that culture and those people. No doubt, but it's not much better in Australia, but there is still quite a lot of education around it. And yeah, I don't know, for me it's just really triggering. Classic white woman saying this, but it feels I get uncomfortable if I see white Europeans. I don't know if it'd be different. Yeah, but I feel uncomfortable when I see white Europeans using tokens that have deep cultural, historical, significance to communities that have been deeply discriminated against and destroyed by white Europeans. And I suppose there's an argument that, if you're using something from a discriminated, destroyed culture, and how is that a bad thing? But I think it's an interesting topic. I think it can be a bad thing if you're, I don't know, if you're not aware of the cultural, historical significance of it, and if you haven't sort of educated on yourself on the topic, and if you use it in any way to make money, or to build your own profile, there needs to be a solid kind of dedication and self-awareness and awareness of the thing, for it to be okay. But yeah, I can't help it. I'm in my living room. I'm hearing what I know is a white German woman playing the didgeridoo, and it makes me uncomfortable. But anyway, these are my new problems, which are pretty okay compared to us and clear. Drug dealer, not like innovating immigrants who are drug dealing. I'm talking like scary white German Hartz-IV. I don't know. There is a difference, and I think white German drug dealers are so much scarier. Okay, so on to fun things. I'll say some fun news. I've really decided to. Not decided. I don't think decided is the right term. I would say I feel like I've finally found my groove. Oh God, how old do I sound? But I think after last year, I was after Hi Ho. So after developing the material for Hi Ho, which is very much like embracing sexual freedom, and what is a slut, and let's celebrate that, and let's remove the shame around that, and what does it take to find love, and what are reward systems, and what is motherhood, and they're all very heavy topics, and a lot of them went quite dark, and a lot of them were sexually connected. There was also there's also one of my favorite bits about pegging a dude in it, and so sexual, female body, political, and so I really had this moment, this strong moment, and I've had it for a number of years, where I was like, I want to not create material that's so vulnerable and so sexual. And so I was telling people, I think in my last solo pod recording, I was like, I've got 30 minutes of clean material, and I was proud of that, and that's fine. I can be proud of that, I've since realized that I think a lot of what was shaping that was internalized shame around my true nature and my true interests, and also my natural comedy voice. And my natural comedy voice, I do have a natural knack for bringing comedy to authentic sexual experiences and perspectives. And why should I deny that? Why should I be ashamed of that? And the short answer to that is because it's challenging for a lot of audiences, and it's not got mass appeal. And so I end up feeling like I'm somehow less of a good comedian because it reduces my audience. And I am trying to pinpoint exactly what what really flipped for me. But the most kind of clear experience that I had, the clearest experience was doing Ben McLean's fetish show. And this was quite recent even. I think this was in March or April 7. And I was invited to the show where you actually have to wear fetish gear, and it's at a gay bar. And I was like, down for the fetish gear, not sure if this is going to be my audience. It's going to be male gays, and I love them, but there can also be a strong level of misogyny there that hasn't been checked because they aren't interacting with women, and they interact with them, but they're not having love relationships. And so the unchecked misogyny within the male gay community, I think, is very real, and that did prompt my character Frank, who is my twin brother, who is a misogynistic gay man. And I haven't needed to engage with that for a while, but it is something that I've had to deal with. And so anyway, I was a little bit trepidatious going into this fetish show. Like, will they like me? And so, going through my set list, I did with all of my sexual material, fetishy, kind of crazy, kinky stuff. It often does loop around to some level of fuck you men, and so I was like, let's tweak it so I don't alienate the audience, right? And anyway, I headlined the show, and I had so much fun. I have actually never felt, and this is not an understatement, an exaggeration. I've actually never felt so comfortable on stage in a place that I thought I was going to feel uncomfortable. Now, I didn't have like tits out, but I was like wearing like this PVC bra and looking extremely slutty, and I did. I'm 100% sure I flashed my butt and my undergarment under my little slutty skirt. But I felt so comfortable. I've never felt so comfortable. And in knowing that I was performing to freaks, I could really embrace my own inner freak. And all of this material that I've been doing for, at least a couple of years, material on water sports, and material on pegging, and material on just being a fucking slut. I was able to push down and out even deeper into it. And I went and said things that in front of other audiences I would think and be like, nah, that's too much. But with this audience, I was like, yeah, let's fucking go there. And they ate it up. And I just had so much fun because they were with me and I was with them. And it was like, this is me. And actually, I for my new solo that I'm taking to the Edinburgh Fringe this year, as well as with Hi Ho, because Hi Ho is I still am really in love with everything it talks about, and as much as it's quite a heavy political piece, punches, but it's got a lot of messaging in it, which I like. But it is quite like it's a bit emotionally for me, because it's like my other two solos. There's a lot of sadness that the comedy is processing, and a lot of problems with the world that it is addressing. And so with my new hour, I was sort of mapping all of the new bits that I've got, and there's a lot of themes. Yeah, there's the themes that are really connecting all of my new material. It's like, so, and okay, the themes that are connected on the material, let's stay focused, are things like God, sort of Christianity, I guess, as well as, I would say, quite sort of nasty sexual experiences, as well as mainly that. Nasty sexual experiences and God. And And I was pondering on all of these nasty experiences through my compilation show that I took to Edinburgh last year, Oversharing, and in that show, which is the one that made my 2025 Edinburgh Fringe not profitable because it was at 2 p.m, but it was cool because I did give spots to comedians, and it was an opportunity for audiences to share their crazy stories or ask me something. And in a lot of their questions, one of the most common questions was, what's your craziest sexual experience, or something to that effect. And so I did end up riffing a lot on crazy sex stuff. And so from that, I got a lot of new material. And that is what is in my new solo hour, which, on reflection of all of the themes, and then reflecting on my life with everything that I have studied and engaged with, I do have these deep kind of core interests that have guided my education and personal experiences. And, one of them has been the concept of God, heaven and hell, as well as, I studied Dante's La Divina Commedia, Inferno. I only read Inferno, which is a hefty piece of literature and super interesting. And I loved studying that. I loved studying hell. And then also, I've loved Jean-Paul Sartre forever, and not forever, but since I read the first book, which was The Age of Reason, and Simone de Beauvoir, and sort of existentialism. And I remember quite young learning the quote, "Hell is other people," and I love that. And then sexual experimentation. So it was roughly like a year and a half after I finished studying Inferno that I was with my ex-husband, and he showed me The Devil and Miss Jones, and then that film, The Devil and Miss Jones, inspired me to then pursue my own experience of DP. Hardcore topics, but I decided I'm gonna dedicate this next hour, which is all about nasty sexual stuff, a bit of God theme, and now now I've also got this bit that's deeply about The Devil and Miss Jones. It describes the whole thing, all the background. Jean-Paul Sartre connects to that because The Devil and Miss Jones is loosely based on his play called No Exit, which is where the line "Hell is other people" comes from. So I'm super excited, super stoked to be embracing my true nasty sexual self, and sharing a lot of vulnerable stories, and making them fucking funny. And there's a lot of, as much as there's a lot of gross in this new hour, there's a lot of silly, and a lot of like, I feel like it's so much lighter, even though it's I'd say way more vulnerable. It's a lot. It's just nasty. So I'm very excited to take that to Edinburgh, to be working on it. I've got an Edinburgh preview booked in for both Hi Ho and The Devil in Miss Beros for May 8 and May 9 in Barcelona. Very excited to be doing that. And it looks like I've also just booked in to perform at Grüne Salon, which is a beautiful venue at Volksbühne in Mitte. Check that out. Thanks to the beautiful Expert by Identity booking me for that. We're doing a split bill with their work in progress, Pregnancy Kink, and The Devil in Miss Beros. So that'll be 12th of June, if you wanted to mark that in your calendar, if you are in Berlin, or if you want to come to Berlin for a nice venue, a comedy double. And then on the topic of porn, I have done 2 more porn shoots since my last solo episode here. And I did another one of the same concept as the previous one. So the dating through the senses. All 3 shoots have been with Asties, and still absolutely loving working with them. The most recent, the last 2 shoots were also me doing non-sexual acting roles. With the other Dating Through the Senses, I was again only on camera for the behind the scenes pre-interview, post-coital interview. It's crazy how comfortable I am doing those things. I think you go to enough sex parties and you have enough sex in public, that it's just, I don't know, other naked people that have just had sex. It's just super not uncomfortable for me at all. It's yeah. But always meeting really cool new porn stars, adult industry actors, I guess you would call them. And been having a lot of fun on these sets. I'd say the coolest of the porn shoots that I did, because we do have favorites, was what was it actually called? I forget what. I'm not sure what the actual episode is called. The producers sent me a link so I can see it, which I still haven't watched. My partner was like, Anna, you gotta let me watch what you did. You gotta let me see the porns. And I was like, yeah. And I was actually away visiting my parents in London, and he was like, Anna, ask for the login, because these porn videos are behind a paywall. You've got to pay to watch them, and so I was like, I will ask for a login. I will. And then I made him do grocery shopping so that when I arrived back from London, there would be coffee and milk, etc. And it was only when he confirmed that he did the grocery shopping that I sent him the credentials. But so the art gallery, I guess it's just called Art of Scent is the name of the art gallery episode we did, which is very cool. Super empowered woman vibes. And the shooting location was this gorgeous apartment on Warschauer Straße. All this like really kind of erotic artwork, quite big, very, very beautiful space. And the concept was that the porn star, Kalita Fire, amazing. Check her out. She's full body hair positive, which is so sexy, like full bush, everything. Really got me going. Just, philosophically, as well as, she's sexy as hell. So check her out. But the idea is that she comes to my gallery, and I am the gallery owner curator, and I make her fantasy come true. And her fantasy is to enter an art gallery where the exhibits are men masked, and she gets to smell her way and then taste and then touch, and she gets to she eliminates them one by one to decide who she's going to bang. And it was super beautiful, super sensual, and I'm actually on camera for it. So I introduce her, I explain what's happening, I check in with her through each round of the elimination process, and then they bang. And I got some cool photos from the whole thing as well. I do want to post them, but I keep asking the producers. I'm like, am I okay to post this content if I like blur out the penises? And anyway, very cool stuff. So if you are paying for Esties, I hope you've seen it or subscribe. It's very nice. And I will say, on that shoot, that was the first time. On the second shoot, which is another dating through the senses, kind of like the Tinder dating style one that I did the first time, both at the art gallery shoot and the most recent dating through the senses, I'm on set and I'm watching the porn star get eaten out, 3 times in a row. And I'm like, why am I not doing this? So I did kind of mention to the producer on the last set that I am considering. I think I would be open to a project if such an opportunity arises. I'm under no what's the term? What is it? Like I'm aware that like if you want to get into porn, it's much like any entertainment industry space where you don't just become a porn star. But I wouldn't want to become a porn star. Like I'm not going to hustle to try and like get myself in the game. Comedy is my game, but it would be kind of fun. And actually, the producer on set at the last on the last shoot, I made a joke during the script reading. So one of the on the dating through the senses, one of the things as like hearing. They do this elimination process where each contestant does something sound wise to seduce the porn star and to try and like get into the next round. And one of the contestants drew with like charcoal and pencils, drew the porn star, and it was the sounds of the pencil on the paper. And I made the joke when we were doing the script read out. I was like, and it would be great if, like, you know, she spends all this time drawing and then you know, she gives her the piece of paper and then the porn star takes off the blindfold and it's like this stick drawing, which I thought was hilarious, and everyone laughed. And and that's when the producer was like, I want to do some comedy porn. We should write a comedy porn. I'm like, yes, we should. I would be super down to do that. And on that note, I've actually been contacted by someone who does make comedy porns. My co-host Annika was in one. It was a zombie apocalypse comedy porn. I'm like, this is so cool. And so I went to the screening and I sort of became aware of this director, producer, actor who makes these things, and yeah, he actually reached out to me and wants to work with me. So that could be interesting, both writing as well as acting, and whether or not I want to do sex acting, let's see. But also, what was funny on the art gallery shoot, there was one scene where I was sort of speaking to the camera and speaking to the porn star about the situation we were in the rounds of eliminating the art gallery exhibits for her to fuck. And I said this line, and every time I said it, the porn star, Carlita, couldn't help but like completely lose her shit and start laughing. And we take after take, and each time, like, then the exhibits behind us, the men started laughing, and the producer started getting really annoyed. She's like, Anna, stop being funny. And I'm like, dude, I'm not trying to be funny. And she was like, okay. She's like, all right. And she's like, I'm going to switch out the porn star. I'm going to stand here instead of her. I want to see if this is funny. And she stands next to me and I deliver the line again and she bursts out laughing. I'm like, I'm not even trying. So that was hilarious. I really thought she hated me, but then she laughed. So I was like, okay, I guess my job is safe. But it's funny when like being funny ends up being a hindrance to your job as a comedian, but whatever. It was very fun stuff. And then finally, to wrap up, I have started a magazine for the English comedy scene in Berlin. So it's mainly a vehicle for a comprehensive gig guide for all of the English comedy shows in Berlin, stand-up, improv, etc. And so that's 2 pages of fun data entry that I am doing, and then also like a Telegram channel as well, so that for a weekly update, the Telegram channel is just a weekly update of all the shows for the week, because obviously, as the month rolls on, new shows get added that weren't in print, and it's also not just a vehicle for the gig guide, but also a vehicle for comedians to publish written work and artwork that would otherwise be censored or just be contributing to the free content that we give all of the social media spaces. So a space for uncensored passion projects, and yeah, I'm very excited. I'm obviously going to have a monthly column, which I've called gutter balling, exemplary tales from the gutter. So drugs, and maybe there'll be sex in there, but I do that so much on stage and here anyway. But then also like the Roast Battle Berlin has got a column, roasting the month, and Near Gottlieb, he's doing like a Dr. Seuss take on, he's calling it hate rhymes, very on brand. Paul Salamoni has been is contributing the Fartisan, so that might be bi-monthly, every second month, where he, shares a story about performing comedy, probably more in the German scene because he's more in the German scene, but performing comedy around Germany and stories around that. And then we've got Matilda Paulson's amazing horoscopes. Horror. Oh, I didn't write it with an R. I messed it up. Yeah, it should be horoscopes. Now I get it. I did make a mistake. I just saw my first typo in the whole thing. But yeah, very funny horoscopes. It's crazy. Everyone opens it and just goes directly to their horoscope. And I feel like it's the only thing that people are reading. But no, people have been giving some lovely feedback to the other pieces that are included. And yeah, just the whole idea of creating without appeasing some kind of algorithm. So I am... because my dearest partner bought me a beautiful camera and an incredible lens, I am still contributing to the meta space because you do have to play the social media game to some extent in order to be a credible comedian. But I am still completely opposed to those spaces intertwining with my creative process. And I refuse that. So as much as certain content, speaking to the camera, which is what I'm doing now, which is, I have always been doing this, and recording podcasts is a very comfortable space for me, and I'm really happy to do that. I do not want the capitalistically molded algorithms to dictate how I create and what I create. So I as much as I will be posting clips and only stuff that I think is like good quality and that I'm really pleased with, I will be posting there, but I really want to create a space offline where I can publish, and I'm very excited to be working on that content. I had a really horrible experience with Meta ads in February when I had my Belgium tour, and it really destroyed my... I didn't like giving money to Meta anyway, but it was crazy. I ran this ad that just performed extremely well and resulted in... Well, it performed extremely well on a bunch of metrics that didn't result in any sales, and it was very costly. And it's the first time I've been really screwed by that. And sort of went and researching as to how that could happen. How could a room that I've sold out before with a show that I've sold out before not equate, with media content like for the ads that were good quality, that obviously was well received to such a point. Yeah. It was really really frustrating, and so that's what really prompted me to go, you know what, I want to create another space where people can find out about comedy, and so that's why I started the magazine. And this is just the first edition. I will be sending the second edition to print this week. People are excited about it. Still need a bit of help with distribution. So if you're a comedian listening to this, seriously, your help distributing this is not undervalued in any way, and being like, oh, it doesn't affect me. It's like, well, no, every single show is listed in here. If this gets more, the more eyes that see this, the more the entire scene can benefit. So I'm not being paid for this. I've got sponsors who are covering the printing costs, but it's still like a lot of work. So all the help that the scene or anyone wants to give to help distribute copies, they live in the green room at the Wall, and you can pick them up. And I've been leaving them at cafes, at cinemas, at bars, obviously at comedy venues, and even like stuck a bunch to a random signpost yesterday, so people can rip them off and keep walking. So yeah, it's just like let's get off our screens. Let's move away from spaces that are censoring art and monetizing it without us getting anything back. So that's my little political speech there. Also got a very cool web series coming out soon from the Wall. We're making a comedy series called The Green Room, which is like The Office or It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but about a comedy club. So we filmed the first episode, and very excited to see how that's going to come out in post. And then I did think of another funny little story. What was the other funny little story that I wanted to share? I think it was another little funny story. Okay, just like a little coincidence story. I don't know. To wrap up, I find coincidences insane. So on Saturday night, I had a show, and after the show, I was wrapping up, and a guy that I dated walks in, and he doesn't seem surprised to see me at all. And I'm like, oh, hey. And we chat, and within the first 30 seconds, he like revalidates every reason why we're not together. Sweet guy, but it was just like, he mentioned being, last time he saw me, he was on the train and he was so drunk, he was too embarrassed to say hi. And I was like, okay. And then just like the dynamic of the conversation, I was like, okay. But such a sweet guy, really lovely, but it's just, And then I go home after the show, and my partner and I have made like a sex date. It's like, we got to have sex tonight. I've been so busy with all of my projects, and we kind of got to schedule it these days. And so we fuck. And afterwards, my partner tells me something about, let's say he makes a comment, very specific wording about my butt, and he says these words that are almost identical to the words that a guy that I used to have sex with for a number of years once said. And it was one of the last times I saw him that he said this thing about my butt. And when my partner said it, I debated it in my head, and I was like, nah, I'm going to tell him that this is kind of verbatim what this other guy has told me. And so I tell him, and we laugh about it. And then after we fuck, we go out to party. There's a good DJ, a back-to-back DJ playing, and we're partying, we're having a great time. It's like the first time in a while where all the drugs are kind of like working together in this perfect harmony, where we're just feeling wonderful and like, whoa, trippy and good. And I look across the room and I see the guy that made the comment about my butt, and I'm like, what the fuck? Two guys in one night from my past that have, And I turned to my partner. I'm like, dude, the guy that talked about my butt with those exact words is here tonight, and he doesn't even live in Berlin anymore. What are the chances? And so I watched him for a little bit. I'm like, no, he's here. Like, he's properly partying here. And I'm like, maybe I can avoid him. And then he goes to the bar, so he's like 2 meters away from me. I'm like, nope. He's here. I'm going to say something. And so I go up to him. I'm like, hey. And he's like, I don't even live here anymore. I'm like, no, I know. I thought you left. And we're talking. He's like, it's crazy to see you. This is my girlfriend over here. I'm like, well, this is my partner. And then I say to him, like, dude, it is so insane. I just told, like, when you said this about my butt? And he was like, yeah. I'm like, well, this is my partner. He said the same thing to me tonight. Isn't that insane? And he was like, what? And then I introduced them, and it's coincidences are so bloody weird. I don't think necessarily there's any comedy in them, but like, what are the chances? Two exes, kind of. I wouldn't call the guy that I used to fuck an ex, but in one night, one back-to-back. Oh my God, it was a back-to-back party on a back-to-back party. But anyway, guys, I'm really happy to be back recording the pod. I wasn't going to, and then I checked what the stats were like on views and downloads, and I haven't contributed a new episode in almost the last episode was we're getting close to a year, and downloads are up to like 800 this month, and that's insane. So shout out to all my new listeners. Thanks, guys. I'm going to be getting a guest onto the pod in the next week, and we're going to be back. I got a year of new stories and perspectives for you. So guys, if you don't follow me already on Instagram, AF Beros, I only post my best comedy clips. And yeah, guys, it's so great to be back. This has been Adults Only Comedy Berlin. Thank you so much, and goodbye.